All right, so since we're in the middle of a series, our new series on certain philosophical concepts, it kind of creates a nice segue to tonight's topic, which I'd love to go over good faith versus bad faith, but today we're going to get an example of bad faith from the king of bad faith. We all know him as Vaush. His real name, of course, is Ian. Let me adjust my microphone here. And the video we're going to be reviewing today is entitled Ben Shapiro's Laughable Defense of Trump is Self-Parody. And what's funny, of course, is in reality that what I've seen so far of Vaush's video is its own self-parody given the title. The reason I picked out this video isn't because of some fanboy affliction with Ben Shapiro. No, it's because Ben Shapiro's in the title. This is his third most recent video, and that will hopefully get me some clicks. Because anything with Ben Shapiro's name in it is a hot button topic, because it always is. So, since the topic of today is bad faith, by the way, too, I haven't seen the entire video. I have, get this, watched a ton of Vaush, so I can say that he's the king of bad faith for all you people out there that don't understand that there's more than one video that he's produced and that I've watched, and that in the case of this video alone, no, I haven't watched the whole thing all the way through. That's the whole point of a live reaction. Otherwise, you're not getting a live reaction. You're getting a rehearsed or scripted reaction. So, without further ado, let's go on to what's going to be a fun ride through bad faith from the king himself.
There is also another aspect to the pitch when it comes to Donald Trump being very, very bad. And we all know this. The final closing pitch for Democrats and why Donald Trump is very, very bad is because Donald Trump is a miasmatic evil force across the land responsible for COVID.
True.
Right? There's
Okay, so let's look at what Ben did there. What he did was he just described Trump in the most hyperbolic extreme of evil. It's cartoonish hyperbole is going on here. And Vaush says, true. There isn't a way to characterize Trump which could be conceived of as being worse than the way Ben has described him. Miasmatically evil across all fields. True. Trump is responsible for COVID. True. Okay, there's no way to more cartoonishly and more hyperbolically describe Trump's relationship with COVID as being in some way nefarious or evil. And Vaush is true. So are we getting any principle of charity here? Are we taking any sort of good faith interpretation of Trump's relationship with COVID? No, we're taking the most hyperbolic extreme. So in this case, it's true that Trump is responsible for COVID. I mean, to what extent? To what extent, Vaush? Are you willing, or do you honestly believe that Trump is responsible for COVID? As in, if Hillary Clinton was president, do you honestly believe there would be 0 cases of COVID in the United States? Do you honestly believe that there'd be 0 deaths due to COVID in the United States? Or is COVID a viral pathogen that sometimes makes its way across certain borders, and it's kind of unavoidable given its virulency? And that there are some people that are just unavoidably going to die because of viral pathogens, because get this, people die due to viral pathogens. I mean, you have to be utterly delusional to agree with this position, Vaush. But hey, we're talking about the king of bad faith, so
there's an almost biblical view that Democrats and the media have of COVID, which is that America deserves this. That because
What?
Okay, 20 seconds ago, less than 30 seconds ago, Vaush, you agreed with the most hyperbolic. So Ben Shapiro describes Trump in the most hyperbolically critical of fashions imaginable. You agreed with that. And then when Ben Shapiro criticizes the media for going along with the most hyperbolic vision and criticism of Trump, you what? You're dumbfounded. Do we really need to roll the tape, Vaush? He's describing exactly what you just did 10 seconds ago.
we elected Donald Trump, we deserve this. They had the same view, by the way, of the wildfires in California.
Wait, what? I have literally never seen anyone on the left, from liberals to leftists, saying America deserved COVID. I have never seen this in my life. What the fuck are you talking? How hard do you have to reach for the fucking victim complex you're experiencing right now here? Jesus Christ.
Okay, so if we were to take a charitable interpretation of what Ben is saying, rather than than either an absolute literalism, which I mean, when is it appropriate to take an absolute literalism of what somebody says? If I say hit the road, Vaush, does that mean go outside, take a stick, and beat the asphalt? Right, I'm clearly talking in figurative terms in that case. But is he describing the general take on the media? Or is he saying this person literally said, and I quote, these 3 words in this consecutive order on this platform at this time? Is he actually saying that, Vaush? Or is he describing the general take of the media on Trump? Are we willing to engage in any sort of remotely good faith manner on this respect? Also, I mean, I would expect Ben to, in this case, if he's specifically talking about, if he's talking in this specific, to cite specific examples. If you're talking in the specific, then I would expect you to cite some examples. Let's see if that happens.
Right. They're like, oh yeah, it's like the Bible, dude. They think we all deserve to die because you voted for Trump. They want you dead because you voted for Trump. No, dude.
First things first, you are delusional if you don't think that there are people out there who want us dead because we voted for Trump. Now, I didn't vote for Trump, not in 2016, not in 2020. But if I wear a MAGA hat out, do you honestly think that I'm not going to be accosted? I mean, we have a guy in Oregon who was shot to death in cold blood because he was a quote unquote Trump supporter. We know this happens. Not only do we know that this opinion exists, we've seen it actually manifest in a dude getting killed for being a Trump supporter by a guy on the left who is unquestionably on the left. I said when that situation came out to let's wait for more information. We have more information. That guy was on the left. He was motivated by the gaslighting that you're engaging in right now, Vaush, and murdered a dude in cold blood. There's no way to interpret that as anything other than murder, based on the information we now have available a little over a month later. So, and we have countless examples of this type of treatment throughout the rest of the country. Like, I off the top of my head, I came up with one we all know.
The only person, dude, Donald Trump literally on stage said that.
Literally on stage, which means that we should be able to find this direct quote. Now, Ben Shapiro never said literally on stage.
He didn't care that much about providing stimulus.
I don't care that much about providing stimulus
aid because it would have
aid. Let's see if we can even find that. Not even close. Nothing even close. So if I'm to take you literally, Vaush, because you've used the word literally, or do you mean figuratively? And you're going to describe somebody else as a moron, by the way, later on in this video. So I don't know if you understand the word moron or literally, but I digress.
Would have gone to Democrat crime-ridden cities. The only entity, the only people, the only...
He was talking about federal loans that were going to cities themselves. He was talking about aid going from one governmental body to another governmental body. He was talking about the fact that we all know what the reality is. These were grant making and loan making programs that were targeting effectively these low income communities for government to government transfer of money. And he didn't want to do that because, yeah, that was probably going to be going to these communities that kind of don't deserve the tax kick, right? He didn't want to give Governor Cuomo or the governor or the mayor of Baltimore. Sorry, it would have been actually de Blasio and who's this mayor of New York, and I forget who this guy's name was with a lady, the mayor of Baltimore. He didn't want to give them federal aid. He wasn't keen on giving them federal aid for these programs as part of that package. That's a very nuanced take, Vaush, and you're going to describe it in good faith terms?
Group that have actually said certain groups of Americans deserve COVID is Donald Trump, is the Republican Party. Like,
okay, so I actually did this off screen. You cannot find anywhere. There's one place where you can find somebody saying that America or the people of America deserve COVID. There's one place. And that's on Hassan Piker's Reddit. And it got upvoted 6 times. So I'm not sure what you're talking about here, Vaush. Now, I realize that I'm kind of taking a literal take on that when I did my research for all of this. But go ahead, type into Google, America deserved COVID, and show me what you find. You find incredibly obscure gobbledygook in code, and you also find, well, Hassan Piker's Reddit. Take the quotes away, use the infinite forms of these verbs, change your order. You cannot find anyone saying this. This is kind of like the whole trickle-down economics myth. No one on the quote-unquote right side of the aisle has ever espoused the notion of trickle-down when it comes to economic theory. No one has ever done that. This was created under the Hoover administration by critics. Under the Coolidge administration by critics of Coolidge, who gaslit his take on the economic downturns that were happening in 1921, the mini recession that happened in 1921. It was their critics who were gaslighting it by using that phrase. And every single time it's been used has been a gaslight by critics of supply side economics. So, yeah, no, you're not going to find it on either side, Vaush. Not at least in that literal phrase.
Easily. Like, this isn't even arguable.
Joe Biden has said similar stuff
about
global
arguable.
warming.
It's an empirical claim.
Trump, global warming will stop.
It's an empirical claim, and you can look into the empirical claim. And Vaush, you're wrong empirically.
It will cease almost immediately. It's amazing.
Nope, he's never said that. We don't bully Ben Shapiro enough, by the way, because.
So, okay, is he going to give a quote? Is he going to say that this is something that he said on stage, literally, Vaush? Because it doesn't sound like Ben Shapiro said literally or on stage. But I'll include a link in this video's description to a conversation, to the debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. And I think will allow you to characterize Biden's take on Trump's policies and how they would affect climate change. So, good faith.
Ben Shapiro does have some sort of like aesthetic inclination towards intellectualism, but he is actually a fucking moron. Like
So he's a fucking moron. Does he understand the word literally? Does he understand the word moron? Does he understand all of these words? Are we describing him in a remotely charitable manner, or to his positions at least in a remotely charitable manner? Or are we saying he's on the right, therefore he's worse than Hitler?
Genuinely is a fucking moron, dude. Nobody has ever said we would just get rid of climate change. You can go on Joe Biden's website.
Okay, so again, we're going to engage in good faith in some way, in a principle of charity. So there is a way to interpret Vaush's take as being true in terms of nobody on the left saying that climate change is going to go away. And the way that you're able to interpret that phrase to be actually true is from the axiomatic position, which means that the people on the far left extreme who've taken the most, again, radical position on climate change, that it's entirely caused by human beings, that no temperature difference would have existed ever if it weren't for going back to 1750, which means that in the year 3140, the generic climate would be identical to 1750. And you can walk that out another 3 or 4 billion years. It would be identical. When you're taking that extreme, which also believes that in 10 years, the planet will be Venus. Those people believe there's a certain sect of those people that believe that climate change is an axiomatic reality, which means that there's no possible way to affect climate change in any way. Even if you could conjure up some sort of omnipotent god creature to wave his magic wand, it would still exist because it's an axiomatic truth. It's an axiomatic truth in the same way that there are no such thing as married bachelors, because the definition of bachelor is unmarried man, which means that I can tell you without counting, that there are no married bachelors. That's an axiomatic position. So there is a way to interpret what you've said as being true, and that's from the radicals who have taken climate change as an axiomatic position. So do you subscribe to that, Vaush?
Site, and it literally has, this is Biden, by the way, this isn't far left stuff. It literally talks about like incremental reform. It says it right there. Like you can see it on the website.
So have we pivoted? Have we pivoted from the claim that if Trump wasn't there, that Biden would resolve climate change? Because it seems like you're suggesting that he's got a plan to resolve climate change. seconds after you've said that he doesn't have a plan to resolve climate change.
I don't know if you're like illiterate or whatever, or if your hands are too small to fucking space out and type the keys properly to go to fucking Joe Biden's website, Vote Joe or whatever. I guess this is the sort of thing that I would expect from somebody who thinks global warming isn't that much of a problem because people in flooded communities can just sell their house.
Oh my God, another gaslight, folks. So the you can sell your home's argument that Ben Shapiro was making was that if you believe that if we as a society actually believe that the people on those homes actually believe that climate change was a real and existential crisis and then their homes would be underwater, they would leave their homes. And if that side of the aisle believes that there's a sizable portion of people who are in utter denial about the fact that the seawaters are rising, that in general, over the last 200 years, the temperature of the planet has raised. That if you take the most hyperbolic extreme of left, they believe that their opposition believes that the planet doesn't ever experience any natural or human-made climate change of any kind. They don't believe that exists. By the way, that person is an extraordinarily rare exception. You might find one or two genuine wackos who believe that position. You'll find more of them on the left, actually, you'll probably find more of them on the left than you will on the right, to be honest. That if it wasn't for human intervention, the planet would literally never change. And I mean the word literally as not a euphemism, and I don't mean it as a hyperbole. I don't mean it as a figure of speech. I mean to clarify that it is the literal version of that take, not the figurative version of that take. So I have lost my train of thought here momentarily, so let's roll back this tape just a little bit.
I guess this is the sort of thing that I would expect from somebody who thinks global warming isn't that much of a problem because people in flooded communities can just sell their house.
Oh, okay, the sell their house meme. Yeah, so if the left believes, and they do, that the opposition believes what you're going to describe, what I'm assuming Vaush would describe of the political opposition, clearly there are plenty of people to buy those homes. So that's the sell your home take. It's if you think that climate change is an existential crisis and that your homes will be underwater next week, then you should get out of those homes. And if you think there's a sizable opposition that believes that the tides are not rising and that the planet's temperature has not raised over the last 200 years and can't possibly raise over any amount of time, and that the tides can't possibly move in over time, then there should be a buyer. And it's that crazy right-winger that you guys keep talking about, that crazy straw man you guys keep talking about. So this is gaslighting Ben's position, which he has made pedantically clear on a vast multitude of occasions, that's what he's actually talking about. And by the way, he must be illiterate, or maybe has he read something differently than the way you have? Maybe has he been exposed to data and statistics that are separate from yours? This, again, would be the principle of charity. This, again, would be applying Hanlon's razor. This, again, would be a more good faith take, but
yeah, like...
He has said if we elect him, there will be fewer wildfires in California.
That is true.
So Ben Shapiro made a claim about wildfires that was virtually identical to this claim, and you were in utter denial. And now you agree that Biden said that if he were president, there would be fewer wildfires. If he believes that that's related, if that's the direct cause entirely of nothing more than climate change, then that position that Ben just offered, you now agree with? Do you see what I mean about bad faith here?
Wildfires in California are caused by a combination of poor federal forest management, which is something the president can control. And
yes, to a certain extent he can control, but the Department of Wildlife Management and the Department of Forestry have been ruled by a leftist wing that refuses to allow them to do this. Your side of the aisle is the one that's out protesting the controlled burning of certain sections of our certain sections that have historically been exposed to controlled burns, so we don't have these sort of wildfires that we're talking about taking chainsaws out and doing limb work and cutting down dead trees and removing these dead trees. It's your side of the aisle that's been protesting this, Vaush, and I hate to say, but like I can't imagine you weren't there on their side when this was happening.
And economic policy and climate policy, which are things the president can control. Yeah.
How much of this was started by arsonists? We should probably look that up. In fact, we probably can look that up. Let me pull up a separate Chrome so that this shows up in OBS properly. Since started by humans. Okay, Vaush. Okay, Vaush, let's do this. Okay, so we are going to, let's pull up a new one. Oh, God, is this not showing up right? Well, in either case, 90% of wildfires are human. Oh, I know why. Here we go. 90% of wildfires are human caused. NPS.government. Let's see what this says. Oh, it doesn't say anything. I thought it said, oh, here we go. Humans and wildfire. Nearly 85% of wildland fires in the United States are caused by human. Human-caused fires result from campfires left unattended, so idiots. The burning of debris, so idiots. Equipment used and malfunctions. Negligently discarded cigarettes, so white trash idiots. And intentional acts of arson. How in the world is this even closely related to climate change? Like, get this, there are parts of the country that go through seasonal changes where we have rainy seasons and dry seasons. I'm in New England. We don't have a rainy season. We don't have a dry season. Occasionally we go through droughts. And during those droughts, do you know what the local fire departments do? They put a ban on these sort of activities, on burning of debris, on having campfires. We already have laws in position about negligently discarding cigarettes. We already have laws in place about intentional acts of arson. Like, what are you talking about? Like, these sort of things happen, and we have already existing laws to make these sort of things illegal. You can't prevent people from doing stupid and illegal stuff. All you can do is put them to trial. All you can do is serve them justice. That's all you can do. This is from nps.gov. Do we need to go through one more? I don't know what III is. No. You know what? That's plenty. We have nps.gov and the top result on Google. Like, what you need to do to control these wildfires is resolve idiots and resolve criminals. And we already have the methods in place to do that. We need to actually just use them. That's all we're doing. Oh, God. I mean, and this is somebody. Oh, shit. You guys didn't get a chance to see this because of my stupidity here when it comes to OBS. Yeah. All right. So 90% of wildfires are human caused. Well, and this is from nps.gov. Humans and wildfire. Nearly 85% of wildland fires in the United States are caused by humans. Human-caused fires result from campfires left unattended, the burning of debris, equipment use and malfunctions, negligently discarded cigarettes, and intentional acts of arson. Like, what delusional planet are you on, Vaush?
Yeah, that's something a president can do.
Which, no.
Yes, that is the thing. That doesn't guarantee he's going to do it, but yeah, that absolutely is the thing that can happen. Yeah, 100%.
No, that is anti-scientific nonsense.
From a fucking Republican. From a fucking Republican. No, it's not. What do you think?
Did we just go over this, Vaush? Almost all of these wildfires are started by idiots and criminals. I mean, what climate policy is going to affect idiots and criminals?
The fires are being caused by. It's rising temperatures, drought. These are things affected by climate policy. They'll get worse under Trump because he's not doing anything about climate.
We just went over this. 85 to 90% of all wildfires are human caused.
Climate change. Biden will attempt to make things somewhat better. It'll improve it. And by poor federal forest management. You have to clear out.
Poor federal forest management. where there are controlled burns and where there are chainsaws brought in to clean up debris and to clean up the dead trees and to limb up trees that need to be limbed up and to fell trees that need to be felled, that your side of the aisle is protesting.
There's a whole process to keeping forests from burning the fuck down. You got to rake
and
the
Trump
forest
wants
floors.
to do that, but your side won't let him.
It's not a meme. You actually have to. You have to properly clear the forests, and you have to ensure, properly controlled burns to make sure that when there are inevitably fires during fire season, that they don't dominate the forests.
Okay, so let's have a good faith discussion about that. And that would start with, why is that not happening? Why is that not happening? Is it because is it because there's a heckler's veto going on? Is it because one side of the aisle wants to do this and the other side is refusing to let that happen?
But the basic philosophy here is that Donald Trump is a miasmatic evil force lying over the land, and that the only way to relieve that miasmatic evil force is to get rid of him.
This is why I like calling Republicans snowflakes, because they totally fucking are. Every time they don't have a counter argument for a position, they overstate their opponent's position and attempt to ad absurdum it.
You just agreed with this at the beginning of the video. You said, yup.
So the actual belief here is that Donald Trump has bad policies that hurt this country, and Biden's would hurt it less or possibly even improve it.
So then why do you guys describe him constantly as like Hitler or worse than Hitler or some sort of terrorist? We have on this channel an entire segment called Dumb Memes from the Left. These are well-circulated memes about Donald Trump being equivalent to Hitler or worse in many cases. Go ahead and review my channel. We've already done this before.
And what Snowflake Ben Shapiro is turning that into is liberals literally believe that Donald Trump is actually an apocryphal biblical force lying on top of the planet, that every single time he moves, ripples of causality rupture the space-time continuum and destroy our country by evoking ancient demonic texts which lead to things like forest fires and droughts. Liberals literally believe that Donald Trump is personally responsible for everything bad that happened. Every fire that you've choked on the smoke from, he lit that fire.
Then why is it that every time we see something bad happen, the media jumps on it being Trump's fault? Why is it that every politician we see on the left, every voice on the left, every time anything bad whatsoever happens, it's Trump's fault? And I would love for you guys out there in video land, out there in YouTube land, to provide me with a link to a video where somebody says, hey, this is bad, but it's not Trump's fault, from any time between 2017 and now. And I say 2017 because he wasn't inaugurated until 2017.
Every time you stub your toe, the liberals say that's Donald Trump, and they think that if you vote for Joe Biden, that you'll stop stubbing your toe ever again, and that's just ridiculous. That's ludicrous. You can't actually just stop.
Oh my God. Okay, so we've already done this on the show. The Trump is Hitler meme, but just for fun, let's go to our second window here. Trump is worse than Hitler. And let's put this in quotes so we can get as many hits as we possibly can. Greg Gutfeld on CNN saying Bandy Lee, Yale psychiatrist says this is, oh my God, this is so good. Oh my God, we're doing this. We are so doing this. Okay. Dr. Bandy Lee, a well-known Yale psychiatrist, came under fire Monday after she claimed President Trump is worse than Adolf Hitler because the Nazi leader at least improved the daily life of his followers. Donald Trump is not Adolf Hitler, Dr. Lee wrote in a now deleted tweet, according to a screenshot by the Washington Examiner's Beckett Adams. At least Hitler improved the daily life of his followers, had discipline, and required more of himself to gain the respect of his followers. Even with the same pathology, there are varying degrees of competence. Oh my God. While committing mass murder, he did it well and enriched the lives of ordinary Germans with stolen goods, she continued. He worked harder than to earn his followers. Other than these differences, they were similarly incompetent and destructive. Okay, all right, well, Noam Chomsky. Oh my God. Oh, this is a YouTube video? Oh, we have to watch this.
Don't miss MGM Springfield's
Oh, we've
Winning
got
Wonderland
videos.
giveaway, November 1st
Hopefully-
through December 26th.
All right, welcome to the conversation on the TYT network.
30 minutes.
Tonight, we've got a living legend for you guys. I'm so honored that I get to do these.
All right, well, we're not watching this video, but it's on TYT's channel. Noam Chomsky, Vaush's idol, says Trump is worse than Hitler. We're not watching the 30-minute thing. Okay. All right. Let's see. Greg Gutfeld on YouTube. Let's see if this...
Trump was as bad as Hitler. Then he was worse than Hitler. Now he's worse
this is
than
Fox
Hitler,
News. We're
Mao,
gonna have
and
to watch
Stalin combined.
Trump is as destructive a person in this century as Hitler, Stalin, and Mao were in the last century.
Okay, we have video of somebody on the left who is a popular voice, who is a well-known and well-accredited voice on the left saying Trump is worse than Hitler and goes into detail about what he means by that.
He may be responsible for many more million deaths than they were.
Oh my God, Trump may be responsible for many more million deaths than even they were. Are you kidding me?
He needs to be contained, but he needs to be contained by attacking his policies, not his person.
Okay. So you just attacked this person. Anyways. Okay. So yeah, we have more. Trump is worse than Hitler. I mean, let's see. This is mostly that guy. I'm sure I could go on to Twitter. Trump, this is worse than Hitler. Trump is worse than Hitler. Trump is Hitler. Let's do that. Let's see what we can. Comparing Donald Trump to Hitler. Meme of the week, NPR. Oh, okay. So we've got a comparison. So NPR, of course, is going to give the most charitable version of comparing to Hitler. The Hitler comparison skyrocketed after last weekend when Trump asked supporters to rally to raise their right hands and pledge to vote for him. Right, because normally what you do when you make a pledge is to... raise your right hand, put your hand on the Bible, whatever. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Jesus Christ. Even world leaders, past and present, like Mexican, have done it too. Oh, so far, celebrities like conservative talk show host Glenn Beck and comedian Louis C.K. have compared Trump to Hitler, and even world leaders, past and present, like Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto. Oh my God, I'm doing it again. Okay, here we go, folks. This is the article. Brandy Lee. Donald Trump is not an Adolf Hitler. And then the video. Let's go back to the video so you guys can see that. Trump is worse than Hitler. So you guys can see this. This is from Fox. So
there are infinities that are bigger than other infinities.
Come on. We will have to edit this out.
First, Trump was as bad as Hitler. Then he was worse than Hitler. Now he's worse than Hitler, Mao, and Stalin combined.
Trump is as destructive a person in this century as Hitler, Stalin, and Mao were in the last century. He may be responsible for many more million deaths than they were.
Yeah, okay, so here's our meme of the week. Donald Trump makes members of his Orlando crowd raise Jenna Johnson, who's from the Washington Post. That's what the @WP Jenna means. I don't want to offend anyone, but I can tell you that it's been amazingly received. Trump said, I don't know about the Hitler comparison. I heard that, but it's a terrible comparison. Okay, so this is Trump's response to those claims. Right. So we could probably do one more. Let's do one more because you guys didn't get a chance to see all of this in real time. Trump Trump is as bad as Hitler. Okay, most of these are these are Reddit stuff. Who was worse, Trump or Hitler? Let's see what the popular take is on this. Hitler, no comparison. Hitler was elected. Absolutely not. All right, so I guess Quora agrees with this. You know, maybe Quora is full of reasonable people. But to argue that the position you just agreed with like 20 seconds ago when it comes to this video, Vaush, you just agreed with this. Remember at the beginning of the video? Yep. That was Vaush at the beginning of the video. You agreed with this position, Vaush. And now you're saying that it's an unfair characterization to characterize the position you actually made in the beginning of this video?
Stubbing your toe if Joe Biden wins. That'll still happen. They think that it'll stop, it'll go away, but that's them. It's this apocryphal force that they want to get rid of. They don't actually have any arguments.
And we have been struck with the plague. America has. We were struck with the plague because Donald Trump was elected president.
Well,
oh my God. No. I don't want to hear it. You agreed with this at the beginning of the video. You agreed with this position. Trump is responsible for COVID.
I mean, the plague was worsened because Donald Trump was president. It would have come into this country no matter what, I imagine. I doubt there's anything we could...
we're going to walk this position back now because you realize how dumb that take was. Okay.
Have done to have prevented it from entering the country. But yeah, his handling of the pandemic has led to it spreading. Yeah. That's not biblical. It's literally a plague. Just because the plagues were a thing that happened in the Bible doesn't mean...
It's literally a plague. Huh. It's literally a plague. Oh, hold on. We have to use a different window again. Hopefully I don't screw this up this time. Plague. I wonder if there's a generic word for plague. Plague is a disease that affects humans and other mammals. It is caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis. Humans usually get plague after being bitten by a rodent flea that is carrying the plague bacterium or by handling an animal affected with plague. Plague is infamous for killing millions of people in Europe. So Vaush, it is literally a plague. Like, I would love to say that you're using hyperbole. I would love to say you're speaking figuratively, right? But you're putting the qualifier literally before that phrase. So do you understand what the word literally means? Do you understand when you accuse somebody of being illiterate, what that means? What the implication is there? And of course, I screwed that up. Eventually, I'm going to get this down. Here. So I'll have to reposition this a little bit so you guys can see this. Here. This is from the CDC. Plague is a disease that affects humans and other mammals. It is caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis. Humans usually get plague after being bitten by a rodent flea that is carrying the plague bacterium or handling an animal infected with plague. So is it literally? Do you know what the word literally means? Is it literally plague?
Criticizing Donald Trump for his treatment of a plague is necessarily a mythological criticism. Plagues are a real thing. The reason why they wrote plagues into the Bible is because they were a real thing that had happened to human beings. It's a real thing that happens.
And if Donald Trump were not president, then the...
So are you talking about the biblical plagues being real, Vaush? I hope not.
The plague would go away.
It would have been dealt with better, yeah. And there are innumerable arguments one can make to justify the belief that Donald Trump has done worse than Hillary Clinton would have, and certainly has done worse than Joe Biden will. 100%. Yeah, those are easy.
Okay, so it's easy to say that Joe Biden will, because get this, we now have more research than Donald Trump had at his disposal. We are probably going to get at least 2 vaccines enter the marketplace before the inauguration. There's no possible way you could put a dead rat in Joe Biden's position. There's no possible way that the conditions related to COVID improve from January 20th on. It's not possible. In fact, that's an incredibly low bar that you're setting.
Factual arguments that can be made. They've been made on debate stages. They've been made in presidential debates. They've been made in policy positions written on websites. We've been over this a trillion times. Donald Trump has had no plan. He lied to the American public.
Oh my God.
He has constantly downplayed mask usage. He has...
No, he said he has not said anything about the masks being ineffective. What he said is that he would not wear them because he didn't want to wear them. I don't know where you're getting this gaslighting from, Vaush, but no, this is a complete misdirection of what actually happened on the ground. Let's roll back the tape a little bit.
In policy positions written on websites. We've been over this a trillion times. Donald Trump has had no plan. He lied to...
Because when you have a disease that doesn't exist, there's no plan for what you're going to do when the non-existent disease comes into existence.
The American public. He has constantly downplayed mask usage. He has mocked...
He's lied to the American public. Oh, you mean like he went out into the streets of China and Chinatown and said, "Oh, there's no reason to not continue shopping. There's this disease that's coming in isn't nearly as bad, and just because it's from China, we need to continue shopping at these places." Do we want to talk about the hair salon that Nancy Pelosi got caught in, not wearing her own mask? What does that tell you about her actual take on the masks? Do we want to talk about what the WHO said about masks? Do we want to talk about what the Centers of Disease Control has said about cloth masks? And at least in the case of cloth masks, which is that, well, I can't say that they don't do shit because this video will get yeeted, but fill in the blanks.
Mocked the people who have died of the pandemic. I mean, again, it's very
easy. He did not mock the people who
easy
died of
This isn't like
COVID.
a fuzzy line.
And this has been, this sort of logic has been shown through the prism of COVID.
What?
Right? COVID itself is now a referendum on Trump. If it weren't for Trump, COVID would just go away.
Well, no. Trump is the election is kind of a referendum on COVID in part. What? Wait, I'm sorry. Did that make sense or did I mishear?
On Trump. If it weren't for Trump, COVID would just go away. It would just go away because there's apparently a big red button in the White House labeled Stop COVID, and Trump refuses to push it because Trump is COVID.
Dude, this is incredible. Like the reductio ad absurdum here is so fucking persistent that he's literally acting out the straw man that I did, the caricature I did of his behavior. He's like, just because you vote in Joe Biden,
you agreed with this position at the beginning of the video, and then he called out your own absurdity, and now you're changing your position.
It doesn't actually change anything. First of all, even if you elect people on November 3rd, say for example, even if you elect people on November 3rd, even if let's say for example, you vote in Joe Biden.
See, the other thing to point out too here is that Ben never qualifies any of his statements, which seem to be hyperbole, with literalisms, right? He doesn't say they literally said these things. He's describing the general point perspective, which, I mean, what do you get from, again, we've gone over these memes. There are plenty of memes out there that are very popular and are circulating throughout and originating from the left. It's on this channel. We've been through them that actually go so far as to say, if Donald Trump wasn't here, there would be no deaths. Joe Biden was caught on tape saying if he was president, there would be no deaths due to COVID, which is an absurdly delusional take. Like the fact that you agreed with this position at the beginning of this video and now you've pivoted away from it because it's been exposed as being ridiculous, Vaush, says a lot more about your character and how well Ben's generic description fits the leftist extreme. Remember the word literally.
Biden. You do realize, of course, that they're not even actually inaugurated until the beginning of next year. So frankly, nothing's even going to change. They say that the moment liberals will tell you is that, let's say hypothetically Joe Biden wins, instantly every problem in America is solved, folks. And we're all immortal, deific, semi-translucent beings of light. That is what liberals will tell you. But that is ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. That is not what happens. That is not how it works. No amount of presidential policy can make your skin translucent. And frankly, as an Orthodox Jew, I question the motives behind trying to make humans deific in any respect. In fact, I think that's actually quite sacrilegious. And what they're trying to do, what liberals are trying to do, is they're trying to make Trump the Antichrist and ignore the fact that every Republican has been saying that every Democratic candidate is the Antichrist for literal decades now, and that every single election turns out to be a moratorium on religious extremism from the part of Christian fundamentalists. Ignore all of that, and let's just pretend that Democrats are the ones who unnecessarily impress religiosity on every single presidential election. And now let's pretend that Democrats unironically believe that every single problem that this country has ever faced will be instantly fixed under Joe Biden, rather than acknowledging the fact that there are actual real policies that Donald Trump and Joe Biden both respectively believe in, and that you can measurably determine which one of those are going to be better, and that Joe Biden's are better. Let's completely ignore the policy.
So we had a section on principle of charity. We had I would love to do a video. I will have to do a video at some point on good faith. For those of you who know what good faith is, for those of you who know what bad faith is, for those of you who watch the video on the principle of charity, what's your thoughts on this video? What's your thoughts on this take that Vaush is presenting? Is it a straw man of a straw man? Is Ben going to say something along these lines and then not evidence it? I mean, part of those descriptors an actual reflection of reality? Vaush, how do you take all of that when at the beginning of this video you agreed with the hyperbolic extreme that he almost verbatim repeated, and that you're now caricaturizing?
Policies. I know I come off very smart. I'm actually a very stupid man. And I recognize, of course, as a person just smart enough to know when I'm out of my depth, that if I actually try to argue policies here, I'm going to look very, very bad. So instead, let's just make fun of you. We're going to make fun of the things that I think you believe. And I distrust my audience enough to believe that they're stupid enough to actually take what I'm saying as a serious representation of Democratic positions. Okay? Okay. Hypothetically.
COVID is Trump. Now, from Trump's perspective, he's saying, listen, I'm not pushing lockdowns because lockdowns are bad policy.
Worked in other countries around the world.
And guess what?
Worked in, are you kidding me, Vaush? No. In Korea, what you had was a falling off of the cliff in terms of deaths and outcomes. And then the moment the policies got a little bit more lax, boom, came an astronomical and vertical spike. What happened in Sweden? Do you want to talk about that country? What happened in Norway and Finland? Do you want to talk about those countries, Vaush? Where, for all intents and purposes, they didn't go through a lockdown. And according to research regarding the reporting of wearing of masks, which I realize suffers from self-reporting bias, we'll probably have to go through that and over that in another video. But it's the only data we have. People in Scandinavia report wearing masks at a lower rate than the United States. And guess what happened, Vaush? They're not having a second spike. They're, for all intents and purposes, they're over it.
We've locked down. We watched Europe lock down, and Europe is now spiking harder than the United States is by
True.
leaps and bounds.
Depends on the country in the
True. Sweden, Finland, and Norway are not having second spikes. Let's hear you talk about them, Vaush, because a good faith discussion would require talking about countries like that. A good faith discussion on the empirical research should include the empirical research that doesn't prove the claim that you're providing. You should be looking at all data, right?
In that continent, Ben, that continent has dozens of countries, some of which are doing poorly and some of which are doing well.
But
he's not going to name the countries or how that's working. But we did. We talked about Italy on this channel, who's having a second spike, and it's worse than the first spike. We talked about Sweden and Finland and Norway, who are not having second spikes. We talked about the UK, who locked down pretty hard and didn't have a second spike. We could talk about, and is now experiencing a giant second spike. We could talk about Spain. We could talk about Greece. We could talk about Germany, these places where they instituted severe lockdowns and are not doing better than Finland, Sweden, and Norway, where they, for all intents and purposes, didn't lock down and aren't having a second spike.
of this COVID talk is being refracted through that lens, right? That prism of Trump is bad and evil and everything COVID related is about Trump.
I appreciate the sublime irony of Ben Shapiro going on this tangent while America is literally setting records for COVID cases. Like
we talked about this earlier in the week. What does cases tell you, Vaush? America is also setting records for HPV cases. Should we ban college campuses? Should we lock down the entire country and put ourselves into isolation and force people to literally starve unless they actually have farms in their backyard because of HPV? Or do cases not tell you shit? Because, Voss, cases don't tell you shit.
Like, we are the fucking world champions of COVID-19 right now. We're in a third wave. We're getting over
We're the third largest country in terms of population. It's relatively sparsely spread, which means that in the interior of the country is going to take a while to even get it. We're not like China, where almost all of the population is on the eastern seaboard, almost all of it. We're not like Russia, where a handful of cities in far western Russia account for virtually all of the population. We're not like India, which is an land area way smaller than the U.S. Okay, we all know what happened in China. Number one, it ran roughshod over the country, and that's just what happened. We also know that we can't rely on any information that's coming out from China about their country. And we also know that if we're going to talk about South Korea, super densely populated country, right? What's happening now? Are they experiencing a second spike? Right? The United States is a giant country, and there's a huge population. We're third in population. So of course, we're going to have the greatest number of cases that we're going to actually report to the international community. Of course, when we have the interior, who takes time to get it, of course, even with lockdowns, you're going to have a second spike. The moment you do get in any way lax on that spike. Do we want to compare Connecticut to the rest of the country, where the disease got here way before any lockdowns were put into place? It ran roughshod over our state. And yeah, now we're not really, our second spike in terms of death is barely a blip in the radar. We didn't have a summer spike. Cases don't tell you shit about outcomes. Outcomes tell you something about outcomes, Vaush. But I thought you were the smart one. Ben's an idiot, and you're the smart one.
100,000 new infected people every single fucking day, and Ben Shapiro is still here, completely ignoring the actual policy side of the arguments. Many of the European countries that are spiking because they stopped their lockdowns. There are other countries
right, because they delayed the inevitable instead of actually getting over it. They did things. They could have taken the Sweden approach, which is that, hey, it's not that dangerous. We're going to get it. We're going to tell the people who are healthy to go out and get it on purpose. And we're going to tell the elderly and the obese to stay at home. And everyone else, go out and get it. Right? And then you build up this, and I have to say that muffled so that Susan WikiWiki doesn't yeet me. But, are we going to engage in even a hint of good faith? Are we going to talk about those countries themselves, Vaush, and their actual outcomes? Or are we going to gaslight it and cover for everything with cases? Also, who does the most testing in the world per capita? The U.S. Who does the most overall tests in the world? By far, the U.S. So what do you think that's going to do? If you have a positivity rate of, say, 4.2%, like we have here in Connecticut, and let's say you can just even number. If you have 100 million people and you test all of them, let's say, and you have a positivity rate of 10%, you're going to have 10 million cases. If you have a country with 1 million people and you have a positivity rate of 10%, how many cases are you going to have? 10,000. Yeah, this is that arithmetic that one side of the aisle does not want to engage in. We did a video on that, Vaush.
That have done lockdowns and did them effectively. How do you think Southeast Asia pulled themselves out of this? How do you think
they didn't pull themselves out of this? First things first, Singapore took the exact opposite approach of what you're suggesting. And no, actually, South Korea is experiencing a giant spike. The only countries that didn't have a giant second spike. Sorry, the only countries that in any way had some sort of real mitigation effect on the spread from day one are countries like Japan, which shuts down its borders. Nothing comes in, nothing comes out. And you guys said that was xenophobic. You guys said that was racist and we shouldn't do that. There's only been a handful of countries in Southeast Asia that can do that. Those are the island countries. And the ones that did completely locked down their borders and isolated their own population. And by the way, didn't really have strict lockdown measures within their own borders. But again, both of these are positions that your sides protested and gaslit.
New Zealand pulled themselves out of this.
New Zealand!
Absolutely astonishing.
New Zealand did not pull themselves out of this. New Zealand delayed the inevitable indefinitely. The New Zealand drank in the morning to cure their hangover. New Zealand is just delaying the inevitable. And by the way, the single best demographic predictor for the spread of COVID is population density. You're talking about a country that has more sheep than people. And in this case, I'm going to use a word you don't understand in its appropriate context. New Zealand literally has more sheep than fucking people, Vaush. Like, it's a lot easier to control the spread of a disease when everybody's naturally 100 million miles from each other. Right? The largest city in New Zealand is Wilmington. In fact, let's do our second screen. We're going to get this right. New Zealand. Oh, hold on. Let's do Wiki. So we can get some basic demographic statistics. Largest city is Auckland. Sorry, their capital is Wellington. Their largest city is Auckland. Has an urban population of 1.4 million. Auckland on the northern extreme. We need to see more cities in this. Let's just go to our generic population density of the country as a whole. In fact, let's do Wiki list of countries by population density. Okay, so let's bring this up for everybody. So you guys can all follow along. And yes, I realize the irony in criticizing and using Wikipedia to be critical of an empirical claim by the king of by the guy who's been defined by his scholarship on Wikipedia. List of countries by population density. Let's find Control F, United States. Guam, Puerto Rico, Samoa, Virgin Islands, United States, 145th, with a population density of either 34 or 87. What's that refer to? Okay, the second one's per mile. Okay, 187 people per square mile in the United States, 145th. Let's find New Zealand, 166th, with 49. Half the U.S.'s population density, half of it, and with a population of 5 million people. 5 million people. Is that right? I'm assuming that's what that means. Yeah, total population of roughly 5 million. So we can go to Auckland. Auckland, the largest city in New Zealand, has a population of the urban area has a population of 1.4 million. If you include the islands off the Hauraki Gulf, I guess that's how you pronounce it, resulting in a regional population of 1.7 million. Okay, so 3.3 million people don't live in Auckland. Okay, let's go to Wellington. Wellington, New Zealand. Wellington North. No, we need to get to Wellington, capital of New Zealand. So let's just do New Zealand. And we'll just click on the link to its capital. Wellington. With a population of 215,000. So roughly 2 million. So 40% of New Zealand's population lives in these two cities, and the population as a whole is half the density of the United States. What does that tell you about that country? That it's two cities and a ton of sheep. Well, there's no comparison demographically between the United States and New Zealand. I'm sorry, Vaush, but this is a useless comparison to make. Oh, and they did it by there was we went over this on this channel actually. There's a story about how there was was it in Auckland? There was a housing complex where they stationed guards outside, where they brought in the military to station guards outside of this hotel to let literally nobody in or out. And I think it wound up lasting about 10 days before basically rioters came to the streets and forced them to leave. This is policy that would never in a million years fly in the United States. That would never, even Ruth Bader Ginsburg would consider unconstitutional. If you really want to go to, if you want to do what South Korea did in the United States, that means you're going to have to institute surveillance policy that would be a blatant violation of the Fourth Amendment, a blatant violation of the Fourth Amendment, and in many cases, violations of various other amendments as well. This would be, if you thought the Patriot Act was bad, wait till you see what happens when we bring in the surveillance policy of South Korea during COVID. There's no way any of that shit would fly in this country. And if Donald Trump, like you've suggested and like Destiny suggested, did that in late February, you guys would be calling him a dictator. You guys would be having your crocodile tears about him being some tyrannical dictator. So you'd either bitch and moan now or you'd bitch and moan then. So what does that tell you about your take on Donald Trump? Is it coming from a good faith position or is it coming from Orange Man bad?
Astonishing. It really is incredible. But conservatives don't care if you die.
Conservatives don't care if you die. You heard it from the man himself. This is the lunacy that Ben is talking about. This is the hyperbolic extreme that Ben is talking about and that you just gaslit and that you just described in an utterly bad faith manner. You just said Republicans don't care if you die. That's the exact characterization of the Republican position, the right wing that Ben is describing coming from the left. And you're doing it.
So it doesn't make a difference to them.
It doesn't make a difference to them. Yeah. So, folks, this has been a long one, I know. But if you ever wanted the perfect example, the absolute case study for bad faith, this is the person to go to. And I don't know what we're going to do in our next video, but we are eventually going to have that talk about good faith and the comparison of good faith to bad faith. And this is one of the rare cases. This guy is not a decent human being, in my opinion. Like, I have a hard time applying Hanlon's razor to him. I have a hard time applying the principle of charity to this one person. I'll apply Hanlon's razor to Destiny. I'll apply Hanlon's razor, the principle of charity to the positions that Destiny takes. I'll do that. But no, I don't recommend actually following his channel. I don't recommend checking it out. But if you're an absolute sadist, and you want to learn what bad faith is, man, follow this guy.